Hello friends, and thank you for joining me here at Non-Toxic Home. I'm glad that you're here. In this video, I'm going to share with you a tea that literally saved my life recently. Now, if you are of the more naturalistic world, as I am, then you know that this is actually properly referred to as a medicinal tisane. And so, I have in a recent video shared a recent event that my husband and I encountered, in which we were wondering if I was going to pull through this time. Now, I've been on death's door for years, all right, so that's nothing new for me. I mean, I'm not now, since we moved into our healthy home, it literally saved my life. Things have changed for me. But prior to that, I was on death's door for years. And so we don't freak out when we have scary things happen. I have a lot of tools for anaphylaxis, none of which are EpiPens now, by the way, because there are natural alternatives. I do not anymore read peer-reviewed studies. I encountered, or I came to a point in 2020 or 2021, I believe it was 2020, when I realized that I was discarding over 90% of peer-reviewed studies as junk science within 10 minutes of looking at the studies. And I realized it was completely insane for me to continue to try to divide the gold from the chaff. So I don't read studies anymore, quite frankly. I don't listen to them. Almost everything is a lie today. And that includes a lot of propaganda that is around microwave frequencies and 5G. Now, I've got multiple articles, multiple videos up about this. Our home is very, very low EMF. We don't have any radio frequencies inside of our home. I am incredibly sensitive to radio frequencies, unbelievably so. I've got 2 articles up, which I'll link to below. One is how a small cell tower stole my only safe grocery store. Another one is how a smart meter almost killed me 3 times. And I'll also link to my article about how EMFs, now when I say EMFs, I'm referring to non-native EMFs. I'm not referring to the Schumann resonance, of course. About how mast cells are degranulated by EMFs. And of course, everyone has mast cells in their body. Now, with the continual onslaught of toxins, both in chemicals sprayed in the sky, in our water, in our food, there's pesticides, herbicides, people are spraying their kids with Lysol. No, don't do that. That's toxic. You're killing your kids. You're poisoning your child. Stop using toxic hand sanitizer. Just use some colloidal silver on your hands. I mean, it's just utterly insane how so many people are brainwashed into believing that toxins are good for them. Now, if you are currently using a cell phone, please stop. If you currently are using Wi-Fi in your house, please stop. There's no reason for this. There's no excuse for this, generally speaking. Now, of course, there are some incidences, such as if you live in a rural area and you don't have broadband or landline phone access. That's a little bit different. But if you, for the vast majority of people who are going to be able to watch this video, there's no reason for that. Those are miniature cell towers that you're putting up against your head, carrying around against your body, putting in your house, sleeping next to, holding in your hands. Some people have their Wi-Fi units right by their child's bedrooms. No, please stop this. You are harming your children, you're harming yourself, you're harming your pets, you're harming pollinators, you're harming all life by doing this. There's no reason for this. Now that I have gotten off of that rant, this tea that I'm going to share, the specific components have lots of other benefits besides what I'm going to mention. Now, this is just what works for me. I've been drinking this every day ever since the event, in which we admitted later we're not sure I was going to pull out of it. I've never had symptoms like that before. I've never had my heart muscle just freak out like that. I've had anaphylactic episodes in which my heart muscle was impacted, but not like this before. Anyone else would have called 911, but if I was ever taken to the ER, it would absolutely kill me. I haven't been to the ER for a number of years. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. 5 years ago, my allergist at the time told me that if I kept going, they would absolutely kill me, because I used to use a lot of emergency epinephrine. I used to have to use 5 to 7 EpiPens a week. Once we moved into our healthy home, then I've only used one. And I also have a lot of natural options when it comes to anaphylaxis. The narrative, of course, is that there are no options to stop anaphylaxis except emergency epinephrine. That's not true. Don't believe the propaganda. There are hundreds of peer-reviewed studies that are solidly conducted, including some incredible meta-analyses out of China and Russia that, of course, have been scrubbed. All right, the Library of Alexandria is on fire, so it's really hard to do your own research these days and find anything that isn't propaganda online. But what finally worked for me, and I was pulling out all the stops that day, is a mixture of hawthorn here. Now, I recommend storing everything in glass jars. Now, but the problem that I have encountered is that my large glass jars and lots of my small glass jars are currently full of holy basil because Mountain Rose Herbs had some on clearance, and so I stocked up, and so now I don't have any spare glass jars. But I do not recommend using plastic. These Ziploc bags that I have been off gas since 2016, so they're very well outgassed as far as that goes. So hawthorn berries. Hawthorn is amazing for heart health, and I have been drinking this entire tea every day, sometimes multiple times a day since the event, and I can definitely declare that the hawthorn, as well as some of the other components, are healing my heart muscle and have made a huge difference. Of course, there are other benefits as well, but also rooibos, and I may be mispronouncing it. I apologize if that's the case. Rooibos. This I specifically purchased from Mountain Rose Herbs. They have a vanilla rooibos tea, which is amazing. It's divine. It makes your house smell incredible. But you can just get the plain rooibos tea, and it's typically by red rooibos. And it also has cardiac benefit as far as research goes. Solid research, of course, not propaganda. And that basically what I do is I take about a handful. Now I have a pretty small hand, palm of my hand. I take about a handful and I put it in the bottom of this. Let me show you. Just in case you've never seen anyone use a French press, I put about a handful in the bottom of this, and then I pour water in, and then I put this guy in. And while it is steeping, you want as much contact for the herb and the liquid as possible. And then 10 minutes later, I push this down. You're okay, kitty girl. Then 10 minutes later, I push this down, you pour it out, and you got your tea. Now, I actually use this twice, sometimes 3 times. And that is what works for me. Everyone's different. Now, this is not medical information or advice. Always consult your doctor or medical professional about everything. This is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, prevent, mitigate, or otherwise address any symptoms or diagnoses under the sun. Mullein is a weed that you may actually have growing on your property right now. We have mullein growing here, but unfortunately it was kind of covered up a bit last year, so I didn't get any harvested last year. We were doing a lot of work on our property, and it's fuzzy. Mullein's very different. It's sort of fuzzy, but mullein is an amazing plant. I will link below to my toilet paper alternative article. It is a toilet paper alternative. We haven't personally used it, but it's very soft, and you can dry it and then use it as toilet paper later, quite frankly. And with supply chain issues, you need to be thinking about some secondary options for your necessities, quite frankly. The supply chain issues are not going away. All right. The mullein I have used previously, both for myself when I had respiratory issues, specifically like bronchitis, and it helps to basically bring that stuff out of there. It's an expectorant. And my husband, when he was working at one apartment complex a few years ago, had a terrible exposure to mold. And of course, he went to workers' comp, where he was sent by workers' comp, and they didn't even listen to his lungs, and they said he was fine. All right, so this is the wicked, wicked world in which we live. People are just so easily conned by the love of money. And the love of money, of course, is the root of all evil. So the mullein definitely helps with breathing. It helps with your pulmonary, your lung function. Another aspect of this tea is stinging nettle. And stinging nettle is a mast cell stabilizer. So I will link below to my article on natural mast cell stabilizers, or my mast cell stabilizers. Kitty girl, you're okay. It's not right now. Sorry about that. Stinging nettle is, most people know about stinging nettle because it is considered a noxious weed, even though it has incredible medicinal value. It also is often used for pottage, which is basically when you put a bunch of greens in a pot and cook them, sort of like kale or spinach, that sort of thing. Obviously, if you're growing it yourself, which is super easy to grow, then you got to be careful when you're harvesting it because it's stinging nettle. All right, just put on a pair of gloves and you'll be fine. You don't want to eat stinging nettle when it is wet, or you need to either dehydrate it or you need to cook it. And so if you dehydrate stinging nettle, then can't think of what the acid is that causes the stinging, but that is neutralized. And so that's something that you want to consider. And stinging nettle was something that was already in my tool bag. Willow bark, also willow has cardiac benefit as well. And this I did purchase from Mountain Rose Herbs. And the willow bark definitely has an impact because I forgot it a couple days and I started to have more symptoms. Another thing that I have added more recently that I didn't use initially is milk thistle. And I really like milk thistle because it helps in the production of glutathione. Glutathione is necessary for detoxification. And most people these days have trouble with detoxification because we're all assaulted constantly with toxins. And of course, non-native EMFs are basically toxic. I mean, come on. There are thousands of studies. I haven't read thousands, I've read hundreds. All right, so there are for sure hundreds of reliable peer-reviewed studies which clearly demonstrate that radio frequencies have harm. Don't fall for the ionizing radiation versus non-ionizing radiation propaganda. Also, microwave frequencies can travel so much farther than what we are told. The only reasons that I can think of as to why we are told that we need small cell towers every block or two is not for our benefit. All right, we'll leave it at that. It's definitely not for our benefit. And but milk thistle is great for detoxification, and I've definitely found benefit from adding it in there as well, although I do use less milk thistle than some of the other aspects in it. So hopefully this offers some help in pointing you in the direction that I went that finally saved my life. Because like I said, I was barely breathing all day. I mean, barely breathing. And then my heart it was giving out. I gotta say, it was giving out. Anybody else would have called 911, but we can't do that here. That's not an option. So I had to figure something out, or say sayonara to the world. And that's okay with me. As far as my faith goes, I am ready when the Lord Jesus Christ decides that it's time for me to go. If you've been hurt by Christians, join the club. The church is apostate. We've got so many videos up as far as prophecy goes. Everything's a fulfillment of prophecy that we're seeing today. And few are studying to show themselves approved unto God, and even fewer have eyes to see and ears to hear. So very few people are aware of this. Like I said, the church is already apostate. So if you've been hurt by Christians, know that they were not followers of my Lord and Savior. All right, because the church is apostate. So had to put that in here. The most important thing that you can do is to make your peace with your maker, quite frankly. And we had that when I was experiencing what I was experiencing. We didn't have fear because perfect love casteth out fear. So we had no fear. So until next time, I will be sharing about how to block 5G and microwaves. Hang in there and stay non-toxic. Non-toxic out.